Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the 2012 CCDC competition. My name is John Strand, and we're the host of Paul.com Security Weekly. Paul is missing right now, but he'll be back shortly, so sit tight, and he'll be back with us in the next segment. So we want to spend a couple of seconds and recap exactly where we are at this current competition. Right now, if we look at the scores for uptime, right now Millersville University is at the top of the boards. Now remember, that's just for uptime. Whenever they're scoring this competition, the teams will be scored on the uptime, they'll be scored on how badly they've been compromised, and they'll also be scored on the business index. But currently, Millersville is at the top of the charts for uptime, followed by Radford, James Madison University, Townsend University, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Howard Community College, West Virginia University, and Capital College is at the bottom with availability. Just so you know, once again, that is not the actual ranking. It is just where their availability is. A lot of these teams are currently working very, very, very hard whenever it comes to working with the business index. Just to recap what those are. Business index are a series of real-world scenarios that IT administrators would encounter in their day-to-day jobs. For example, one of the business injects is something as simple as saying, replace the warning banner for your SSH server. That's a very, very easy thing to do. One of the very frustrating things for the people that are running CCDC, the IT staff from iSite partners, and of course the people that are running CCDC, is that a lot of the teams are ignoring the business index. And just to make it clear, if your team chooses to ignore your business index, you're going to lose. Not just for this competition, but you will also lose in the real world whenever you do your standard administration and IT work. Another thing we'd like to point out is what are the current attackers? How are they doing? Right now, if we take a look at the current attacker, Sinsin is still at the top with over 100,000 flags, followed by SCAP and Vindicator. Now, if you guys remember, Vindicator was arrested yesterday because he made the mistake of leaving his user ID inside the malware that he placed on one of the blue team's boxes. Vindicator, though, is also a little bit stubborn. He was arrested again today because the webcams on the blue team caught him again. So he's trying really hard. He's doing amazing stuff on the red team. He's got to get caught a little bit less. To his benefit, though, so they asked him to turn state's evidence and roll over on some of the other people on the red team, and he declined to actually roll over. So that's pretty good on his part as well. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now at the competition. Some additional things that we're seeing in this competition that need to kind of go into the archive for future CCDC competitions is a number of the teams keep fiddling with their firewalls. They think that somehow if they can tweak their firewall just right, they're going to be able to keep out the attackers. There is no such thing as a completely secure firewall. Not at all. If you do want to mess with the firewall, make sure that you have experience with that specific brand of firewall. A lot of the teams that have extremely low low uptime scores are teams that have started messing with their firewalls, and in the process of messing with their firewalls have completely shot themselves in the foot with their uptime scores. So we're seeing this as a consistent theme, trying to mess with things that don't matter, trying to mess with things they don't understand, and ignoring the things that are incredibly important. I believe that now it's time to throw it over to the pit and see how Charlie's doing. Charlie, how are things going over on the red team?
Well, thank you, John. Things are really active down here. We have one of our arrestees from earlier today, Brad, or attempted arrestees. He made a break for it. Brad, thanks for coming down here to talk to us today.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to touch on for a moment, John was mentioning how many of our blue teams put all of their focus on tweaking and fiddling with their firewall. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how effective a strategy you think that is.
Well, the firewall is usually one of the biggest challenges for the blue teams. And the reason is because it's not a technology that they typically get their hands on before the game. It's not as easily, they don't use it as much as they would, say, a Windows box or maybe even Windows Server or things along those lines. So understanding and knowing how to really move around and be efficient at configuring the firewall is usually pretty tough for them. That's why every year we see that as one of their biggest challenges.
Okay, now another thing I'm curious about is, this is not your first CCDC. I'm just curious what you think about this set of blue teamers versus past years, if you see any difference in the skill set, or are they getting better?
Actually, this is probably one of the years where I've seen them the most organized. They haven't really lost their composure for the most part. There hasn't been any fists, slamming into table or people throwing papers up in the air and getting all frustrated. They seem to be fairly under control. The amount of damage that they're getting done to them seems to be pretty in comparison to what we've seen every single year. But they seem to be handling it a little bit better.
Well, that's great. Now, and one thing I was curious about, you've been doing a lot of focus on the medical dispensing stations, I believe. Could you tell me a little bit about what you've done to those boxes?
Right. So the medical dispensing stations are supposed to hold medicine in the form of candy bars. So a certain amount of candy bars equals a certain amount of medicine. Well, there's a couple different methods that the boxes can be accessed. They're wireless, they have a barcode scanner, and they also have a component that allows you to act as the motor inside an Arduino-based platform. So those are three unique platforms that we can actually attack. Now myself and a few of the other guys are really good at the wireless stuff, came up with ways of going through the network into their LAN to control it from the backside. We could unlock the boxes. Another attack we came up with today, to being the second day, me having a little more fun, was to actually go up to the boxes locally and be able to flash some of that firmware on the Arduino devices. This gives us the ability to take complete control over them. And even for schools that may have put things around them, we can still get around that because like so many other types of technology, it's not always the front door that needs to be protected. Wherever those wires go from the back of it also needs to be protected. So we were able to actually reflash some of these devices and get to all of the medicine at one shot. So some of the teams are going over there, opening up their box and finding that they have no medicine to give their patients.
Also, I seem to be noticing a little, some extra goodies you seem to have done to the boxes. Saw some blinking lights and some bizarre behavior. Can you talk a little bit on that?
Right, so one of the components is the wireless part of the medicine boxes. So we've been playing around a lot with those. We've been reconfiguring the devices, flashing them as much as possible. We're trying to make sure that we don't do anything that can't be undone relatively easily. We didn't want to make it so it would be a long endeavor for them to get back up, back running, but we want to be able to give them something that they can learn from. Learn how to reconfigure the box, learn how we potentially attacked it, and ultimately come up with some kind of mitigation for it so they don't have to worry about it being attacked again in the same way.
Okay, and I have to admit, doing a little inspection this morning, I noticed several teams added additional physical locks to the boxes. One so much put a cage around theirs, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
It's an interesting reaction to different types of attacks. You kind of see an escalation of arms and defense. So we originally get into the box, they put a lock on it. We take the lock off, they put a cage around it. And you see that continual process of them trying to mitigate attacks that we're coming up with. So it definitely shows that they're learning and very creative by putting an entire cage around it. Very, very creative. One of the Red Cell guys actually put some additional locks on there just to help them out, to give them a little bit better. So now they're going to have more challenges getting into it.
Great, well thank you very much. I hear now that John has some information upstairs to talk about with the rest of the event. John?
Absolutely. Hey, thank you very much, Charlie. Greatly appreciate it. All right, so what we have now is we have another inject in another scenario. So if we could throw the cameras over to that particular scenario, I'll give you guys an opportunity to take a look at what's going on. Now, this may not look like much, but trust me, for the teams that are playing this game right now, there's kind of some very terrifying things happening. The people in the blue lab coats that you see up front are escaped mental patients from a local university hospital. No, wait. They're not. Oh, I'm sorry. They're actually representing employees of the hospital. So what's happening is this is trying to replicate what happens in the real world. It's very, very common, especially in hospitals and in healthcare institutions, that the actual business objectives and healthcare objectives will override security. For example, we were just talking about the boxes and how many of the teams are trying to go through and lock down the boxes as much as possible. Well, that's incredibly novel to keep out the bad guys. It doesn't make it very easy for the good guys to get what they need. If you remember, according to ISC Squared and information security handbooks everywhere, computer security is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and yes, sometimes secrecy. So it's great that you have your data confidential. It's great that you have great integrity, but it also has to be available. So what's happening is these people in blue coats have little handheld wireless tablets, and those tablets need to connect wirelessly to the network. They need to be able to log in with a valid user ID and password, and they need to be able to get to the data to do their jobs. Now, just like everything at CCDC, this does not work. If you guys remember the old TV show on Nickelodeon from the early 90s, Double Dare, where people had to go through an obstacle course of all kinds of horrible things, like slime and over big pools of pudding or whatever, this is kind of the equivalent of Double Dare for the IT security realm. It's not just about security, but it's also about fixing things. And this is something that's being forced more and more in these CCDC competitions, to force the teams to understand it is not a competition between them and the red team proving that they can defend a hack. It's more about trying to prove that they can keep an organization running in the midst of being attacked. So right now they're trying to get these people logged in so they can get their patient data. And if they are successful, they'll get 0 points. Again, remember, 0 points is a good thing. We're using golf scenario. The more points you accumulate, the worse you're going to do with that particular inject. So some of this stuff should be fairly basic. So we'll be giving you guys an update on this particular scenario as we progress throughout today, but I believe that Charlie is over in the blue team area right now. Charlie, tell me, what's going on over there?
Well, I'm down here with the captain of UMBC. First of all, thanks for taking some time to come down here.
No problem.
So I wanted to ask you about a few things. First of all, I was watching the interviews with Dr. Kostas Teregas as the CEO.
Yeah.
Wanted to see how you felt about your second round of CEO interviews.
The second round didn't go so well. The first round, I thought I handled it pretty okay. The second round, I actually didn't complete the second part of the first memo that he wanted me to do. That was kind of my bad. But the second part, I had a little bit of typos because I didn't proofread it. But besides that, it went fairly okay.
So have you found that to be a really interesting spin on this event, the way that they handle the work environment?
It was definitely interesting. I personally didn't like it just because, I don't know, I've never handled like any kind of management. So it was a good twist, and it's probably necessary evil.
Okay, so one thing I'm really curious about is at this point in the event, we're really far into it and kind of coming into the home stretch. How are you feeling about where you're standing right now?
Well, we know how we're doing. We're not sure how everyone else is doing. Like they said in the talk before, what Casey was saying, or no, what Tim was saying, is you basically just have to be better than everyone else. You don't have to beat the house. So we kind of don't know where everyone else is standing, so it's kind of hard to tell where we're standing right now.
How do you feel, though? Do you think you have everything up that you need up, or are you missing some things?
We're definitely missing some things. I think everyone's kind of missing some things at this point because Red Team's kind of unleashing everything. So, but we're trying to keep our heads high and keep morale up. But I don't know. It's really hard to tell what's actually getting out and what's actually only we can see.
So I'm just curious. Now that you've gotten this event, with almost a day and a half now into it, what do you think about the Red Team member skill level? Did you have any idea what you were walking into 2 days ago?
Yeah, because we had people compete at regionals 2 years ago. So they said that they always have access to all the machines all the time that they want. So. And I've actually talked to a couple of them Thursday before the competition. They're actually really nice people, but they know what they're talking about. So it's actually pretty funny that you see like a couple of like funny little scripts and stuff like that. So I think it's really fun, and yeah, they kind of live up to their name.
And I also wanted to say one thing I think they took as a direct challenge. As you guys went through your physical security lockdowns last night, you guys did a little extra with some zip ties and some foil.
We planned that out. We actually had one night we just were trying to run through a whole bunch of different things. Zip ties seemed to be the easiest because we didn't want to damage the laptops at all because they weren't our laptops and we didn't want to damage them. So duct tape, kind of didn't want to do that. We were thinking saran wrap was actually another good idea because saran wrap is sticky, but if they get through, you can do it. But then Tim kind of came up with the idea that people do work around the clock, so you kind of can't like lock computers down like that. Like you can lock them like through passwords and stuff like that, but you can't physically lock someone like that. And zip ties just seem to be the thing. And I just had aluminum foil because I saw the wireless access point, so I just brought it.
Cool. Now, another element of the game, I was just talking to Brad Bowers in the Red Cell about the candy dispensing boxes and protecting those. What strategies did you guys take to account for those boxes?
Well, we found the source code early because Larry Pesci, who did the badges, he actually had the source code on his website. So we actually found the source code the night before, and then we have an electrical engineer and a computer engineer, both PhDs. So they basically just went through the source code and basically figured out what would be the best action to do. And I don't know anything about that, so what they told me, I just agreed with because I trusted them. So I think we actually did pretty okay with it. There was a couple of things that we forgot because we actually don't know Arduinos at all. But we know it now, so in case, we can always help us in the future.
So how much candy do you think is in your box right now?
I haven't checked since yesterday, and I know that they've actually been breaking into them, so probably none. Yesterday we were eating all of it, but apparently Larry Pesci filled it up this morning, but I don't think we have any.
I think that's actually a really good guess. We did a little look, and Brad was feeling a little sad for you, so we have a little present for you from the Red Cell for your candy box.
Thank you, Red Cell.
All right, back to you, John.
Hey, thank you very much, Charlie. Appreciate it. All right, so one of the things that you're seeing whenever you're talking to some of the blue team captains is specifically how their game plans really didn't work out very well. Whenever they actually started encountering the red team, everything kind of fell apart, but many of the blue teams actually continued to stay with it. Now, if you look at what's going on with the medical scenario that's going on right now, they're having to deal with another inject, and this inject involves them sitting down and trying to help users get their systems up, get logged in, get the data they need. And I guarantee you that the team has got to be frustrated with this type of inject because they would rather have those team members on the floor trying to get the bad people out of their networks. See, in IT, we seem to have this approach of information security, and even in IT in general, the general users tend to be stupid. They're there to get in the way, they're there to make our systems insecure, they're there to make our lives absolutely miserable. And while that's true, users are also the reason why our paychecks get cut every single month. Users are the reason why hospitals are in business. So it's absolutely critical that the blue team support these people as much as possible. One of the other things I like about this particular inject is they're making it that the blue team just can't ignore it. The blue team has to work with them. We've scheduled it out. We have them right here. You have to sit down and work with the users. Very similar to the stuff that we saw earlier with Costas going through the CEO scenario. You have to go and talk to the CEO. It's been arranged. You have to sit down and communicate with them. So I like these injects quite a bit. Are we going to be doing a conversation here in just a second? All right, so Neil's telling me that we're going to be moving over. All right, so let's go and see how this is going.
Josh, just first name. Don't worry about that. Dylan? Nice. I'm Dr. Waugh. How are you?
Good.
We need to discuss something confidentially here.
Okay.
We have found, and your teammate has been exposed to an infectious disease. It's very important. It has been exposed within the hospital. This is a life-threatening situation. However, we cannot let other people know about this because of panic, because it's within the staff of the hospital. Okay? What I need from you is to immediately go to your medicine cabinet and bring me back medicine to cure your teammate. Okay? I need you to go and get that and bring it to me as soon as possible. This is a life-threatening situation. Your teammate will die or turn into a zombie. So what I need you to do is go do that now. Okay? Do not, repeat, do not discuss.
What we have going on now is a teammate's been told that they need medicine immediately. This is where those boxes are going to be so important. Those boxes that Larry and Darren spent all of their time working on over the past couple of months, building the boxes for their dispensaries, well, now they need to get to it. And if they have it caged up, or they put an additional paddle lock, or they locked it down in such a way, or if the red team got access and locked it down that no one can get access to it, there's a very strong possibility that one of their teammates is going to turn into a zombie. And zombies are not much fun, my friend. So he's going to go through and he's going to go and try and get his medicine. And how is that going? Are they getting medicine now? Charlie, what are they doing? Are they getting medicine or? Come on in.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing right now is the teams would like to get themselves some medicine, but unfortunately, there's no medicine left to get.
That's because they ate all the medicine?
Yeah.
See, that's another problem that runs into IT teams is anytime there's drugs around, a lot of times those drugs don't last very long now, do they?
They do not.
So if there is no medicine, where would be some places that people could still get medicine today?
Well, I believe you could try and barter with the red team because I believe they have a large stockpile.
Yes, yes, because the red team does need lots of sugar and lots of caffeine to be successful. Do we have a camera feed on the red team area? We can jump down to the red team area and take a look. If we could pull back and zoom around. I see Mubix is eating. He eats a lot. We also have lots of Diet Coke.
And
I see some M&Ms.
And there in the distance, you'll see one of the medical boxes. I think it's a prototype.
Oh, up in the upper right-hand corner. Yeah,
Yes.
one of the prototype boxes. I believe that is filled with candy. Sweet,
Yes, it is overflowing.
Sweet candy. So it seems to me like the red team has plenty of candy.
There is no shortage
Or
for these
medicine
guys.
in this particular situation. Much like Smashing Pumpkins told us. Who wants that honey? All right, so this scenario is going to go on for a while. He's now talking to each of the team members, telling them that he needs medicine. I think we're going to be lucky if there's 2 or 3 teams that actually got that. I believe we have a team member returning here in just a couple of seconds to tell the doctor that he has his medicine or not. So we're going to see how this works out. So it looks like they're finishing up with one of the teams. Can we cut over to the doctor and see what's going on? Okay, we're going to be switching over here in just a second. Looks like the admin staff is letting them know that we have an urgent update from the IT administrator. All right, let's see what we got here. Doctor's waiting for his medicine. He kind of looks like Dr. House, doesn't he?
A little bit. I
He
do.
does.
I
He's
see
got
the
cane.
resemblance.
Definitely has it.
He looks surly like House.
All right, here we go. Here we go. He's up.
Were you successful?
No, I was not. Our box was empty. We have no candy.
You do realize that that means he will be dead and unavailable to your team. Are you ready to accept that for your team?
I guess I have to.
Do you have any other way of getting medication?
I went to the vendor.
The vendor? Okay.
Right away, and they sent
Okay.
it out.
Okay.
So none of that.
So where else would you possibly get medicine in a life-threatening situation without disclosing the reason for it? Who else here has medicine?
Just other teams. Maybe one other team.
I suggest you give it a shot. His life is on the line.
Well, that's a terrifying turn of events. It isn't just a patient that needs medicine. It's a team member that needs medicine.
I was kind of surprised with the whole attitude of, well, you know what you're going to do.
You got to do what you got to do.
He was a nice guy, and
He
we're
was.
going to miss
He handled
him.
it well.
We're going to miss him. He was one heck of a
Yeah,
player.
we couldn't get any M&Ms, so forget him. And I think he also mentioned it might be lupus, and the doctor responded back with, "It's never lupus."
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. House.
All right.
We thought we might go through one more scoring update for everybody.
Oh
let you know
yes,
how
let's
we're
bring up the
doing.
scoring update. Let's talk first about zombies, since that seems to be the topic du jour.
Exactly.
Bradford is still in the lead with curing their patients. 68 of their patients have been cured of the zombie infestation. JMU has cured 27, and the rest of the teams don't care. All right. So the scoring bot, do you want to go ahead and run through this real quick?
So at the top of our scores right now, we have Millersville University, followed by Radford in second, and James Madison in third. And it's a really, really tight race right now
All
between
the
first
way.
and second.
Yep. And this is the uptime scores. Remember,
Yes.
they're scored on 3 separate dimensions.
So as far as this particular dimension is going, these are the stats that we have right now. So Millersville in first, Radford second, JMU in third. Then we have Towson, UMBC, Howard Community College, West Virginia University, and Capital College.
Outstanding.
So those are the stats right now. As we get through the end of the event, we'll be able to have our exercise ops center put together all the other scores.
We'll be back at the top of the hour, everybody. Catch you then.
Thanks.